Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the world's most essential industries, steel. I mean, how does an industry this big, this fundamental to our way of life, deal with the urgent challenge of sustainability? Well, we're going to explore exactly that by looking at the strategy of one of its giants, the Steel Authority of India Limited, or SAIL.
It's almost impossible to overstate just how important steel is. It's not an exaggeration to say it's the backbone of modern industry. Think about it. From the skyscrapers that define our cities to the cars we drive, from massive bridges to tiny scalpels, its mix of strength, durability, and affordability is just unmatched.
But this is where it gets complicated. This indispensability creates what you could call a paradox. On the one hand, steel is a sustainability champion. It's 100% recyclable, and you don't lose any quality. But on the other hand, making it from scratch is incredibly resource-intensive. We're talking huge emissions, a lot of waste, and that's the central conflict we're digging into today.
So, this core conflict, this paradox, brings us to the fundamental challenge facing not just SAIL, but the entire global steel industry. It's what we're calling the steel dilemma. How do you balance all that industrial power with genuine environmental responsibility?
Okay, so when we talk about steel's environmental footprint, it really breaks down into four main areas. First up, you've got air pollutant emissions, stuff like dust and different kinds of oxides. Second, the process uses a ton of water, which then becomes effluent that has to be managed. Third, and this is the big one everyone talks about, is greenhouse gas production. And finally, you're left with mountains of solid and sometimes hazardous waste to deal with.
So how does a giant company like SAIL even start to tackle a problem this complex? Well, the answer isn't just a bunch of random fixes. It's a formal, company-wide strategy. Let's take a look at their sustainability blueprint. At the very heart of their approach is this: the Corporate Sustainability Policy 2026. Now, what's really interesting here is that it frames sustainability as a three-part promise. It's not just about the environment. It's about reducing their footprint, sure, but also improving their social impact and making sure the business is economically strong for the long haul.
And they've built this policy on 5 really clear pillars. You've got environmental stewardship, which is what we're mostly focused on today. But look at the others. It's supported by social responsibility, ethical governance, economic sustainability, and even making sure their supply chain is sustainable. It's a truly holistic view of the entire business.
All right, a high-level strategy is great, but what does it actually look like on the ground? Let's dive into the specific technologies SAIL is using right now to control its environmental footprint. So to handle air pollution, they've got this whole suite of technologies. For all those tiny dust particles, they use things like bag filters, which kind of work like a giant industrial vacuum cleaner, and electrostatic precipitators, or ESPs, which use static electricity to literally pull dust right out of the air. And for gases, they don't just use cleaner ingredients, like low-sulfur coal. They also capture and reuse waste heat and gas with smart systems, effectively turning what was once waste into useful energy.
Their approach to water is just as comprehensive. Every single facility has effluent treatment plants to clean industrial wastewater so it can be used again and again. They're constantly upgrading these systems, harvesting rainwater. The ultimate goal here is incredibly ambitious: zero liquid discharge. That means every single drop of water gets reused.
And for solid waste, their guiding philosophy is the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and recover. And as we're about to see, some of the ways they're doing this are really ingenious. They even tackle noise pollution, which is a serious workplace hazard, by doing everything from putting acoustic enclosures on machinery to building noise-proof control rooms to protect their operators. Okay, now this is where the story gets really cool. This is where we shift from just managing pollution to proactively creating value from it. This is that whole waste-to-wealth philosophy in action, and it's a real game-changer in industrial thinking.
It starts with the land itself. SAIL has planted a staggering 22.4 million saplings across its sites. And this isn't just about making things look nice. Not at all. This is large-scale land reclamation, creating biodiversity parks and literally restoring areas that were mined back into native forests.
Then you've got energy. The company has already installed 27.8 megawatts of solar power capacity. But here's the really crucial number, their future target. They're planning to scale this up dramatically to 384 megawatts. That's a huge signal about their commitment to shifting towards renewables. And along with generating clean energy, they're focused on using less of it. SAIL has already replaced over 1.2 million old-school lights with energy-saving LEDs. It sounds simple, but a practical change like that has a massive, massive impact on their overall power consumption.
And this slide just brilliantly illustrates that waste-to-wealth idea. Slag, a major byproduct, isn't just being dumped. Blast furnace slag gets sold to cement makers, and even more innovatively, another type of slag is being used to build roads and, get this, has been developed into new eco-friendly fertilizers through a partnership with agricultural researchers. It's basically industrial alchemy. So, we've seen the strategy and the actions on the ground, but what does it all add up to for the future? Let's zoom out a bit and see how sales efforts fit into the bigger picture, India's national goals, and the global push for a truly green steel industry.
Now, it's really important to understand a key shift in business thinking here, the move from CSR to ESG. Corporate social responsibility, CSR, was often treated like a separate thing, a charity department. But ESG, environmental, social, and governance, is totally different. It weaves sustainability right into the core business strategy. It's a recognition that these factors directly impact the bottom line and are something investors, customers, and even employees are really looking at.
And the challenge is huge. This chart shows you the CO2 emission intensity from making steel. So the global average is about 1.85 tons of CO2 for every ton of steel. The Indian average, though, is higher at 2.55. This one visual just perfectly captures the scale of the decarbonization task ahead for the entire Indian steel sector.
But there is a national roadmap to get there. India's path to net zero is a multi-decade journey. In the short term, the focus is on efficiency and more renewables. Then, from 2030 to 2047, it's all about pioneering technologies like green hydrogen and carbon capture. And in the long term, it's about scaling up those game-changing technologies to hit that 2070 net zero target. So, all of this is driving toward one ultimate goal: green steel. This is really the holy grail, steel made completely without fossil fuels. And the main ways to get there are by using things like green hydrogen instead of coal, powering electric furnaces with renewable energy, and capturing any carbon that's left over.
So, we're left with one last critical question. The world's appetite for steel is not going away. In fact, it's growing. At the same time, the environmental pressure is immense. We've seen how companies like SAIL are transforming their operations, turning waste into wealth and planning for a fossil fuel-free future. The journey is clearly underway. But the real question is, can technology, policy, and this new way of thinking win the race against time to forge a truly sustainable future?